He has always made time for us. He is always available. Last week, I can't imagine the roller coaster of emotions. Let's bring in the one and only Daniel Cormier right now. Very much looking forward to talking to DC. DC, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Good to talk to you again, DC. I wasn't planning on this, but of course, a funny thing happened last Tuesday. And you know what's so interesting about this? And again, thank you so much for the time. On Monday, we actually spoke on the phone. And I'm not trying to break kayfabe here, but we spoke a bit. And I said to you, you're back. You sound like yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to Hawaii.
Absolutely.
The clouds were opening up. You're moving on with your life. You're back. And then Tuesday comes. Can you describe the emotions that you felt as you're trying to get over this? You're rounding the corner, and then all of a sudden you're sucked back in.
You know, it's just, it always seems like things happen at the most inopportune times, right? It just seems like every time, because it takes time to get through something like this, you know, and I've experienced it. You know, I've experienced it at a high level, you know, with the Olympics and the Jones fights and the NCAA finals. It takes time to get over these things, and when you start to come around, the last thing you want to do is be sucked back into the situation that you're trying to overcome. So it was tough. You know, it took a day. I felt sick. You know, it was as we were heading, we got to Disney Alani, and it was time to check in, and I had to, you know, go to my room and lay down just because my head was spinning. You know, because you just don't really know how to take news like that.
In a way, you were validated because you're the one who said for many months and years that you believed he was using for a while, and we're going to find out about the B sample. But I'm curious, after the fact, we didn't really talk about this when you were on a couple of weeks ago. We were just talking about how you're doing. But did you feel like something was up in the fight? Did he feel any different? Did you have any questions about who he was, his performance, his body, things of that nature?
No, I didn't. You know, I walked away from that fight, and he had beat me, you know, point blank, period. You know, I mean, I feel like, you know, it was a good fight, but he beat me. You know, that's what I took from the fight. You know, I didn't leave saying, well, he felt strong or he felt. If anything, I thought he looked a little bit smaller in that fight than he did the first time. But I think it was because he said he spent so much time with his weight low. He said something to that effect leading up to the fight. So I was like, well, I got smaller too, you know. So I didn't. When I fought Rumble, I weighed 232 pounds going into the octagon. But against Jones, I weighed 223 because I spent the last 2.5, 3 weeks at 223. And so he was saying that he had been light. So I figured he was smaller because he had gotten lighter because of the California commission rules. Didn't feel anything.
Didn't feel anything. Do you believe at this point that he was cheating, or do you think that once again it's a supplement? What do you believe now?
I guess now. So I've been in the USADA testing pool since 2001. That was when I first started to get tested by USADA, my first U.S. national team. So 16 years now I've been in this program, and 16 years I've been doing, or not 16 because there was no USADA when I first started MMA, but 2001 to 9, and then when did USADA get back in? 15?
In the UFC?
So, yeah, in the UFC, USADA got in 15. So it's been about 9 years that I've been in this program, and all this time that I was in the USADA program, I was actually taking supplements, and I've never actually had anything like that happen. So I just don't understand how. Something like that could happen, especially back to back. You know, and I really want to be careful with how I answer these questions because, you know, Jon is entitled to the process of what's going to happen with his other tests. But if you were, I think in the last case they said he was reckless, so they gave him a year.
Yeah.
How could you be reckless again going into another fight? It's so odd. So for me, it's very concerning because it seemed as though in the last two fights that him and I were supposed to fight, something like that happened, so, and I don't want to be sour grapes, that's why it's hard to answer the question.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So it's like, but it just makes it very odd.
Somehow in these dark moments, in these moments where you have every right to be frustrated, you end up rising to the occasion and you put out these statements and you answer questions the way you're answering now with the utmost class. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. I would say that if you're not. Deep down inside, how do you feel about Jon Jones now? Like, I can't imagine. I said this to you before the fight. I thought, and you corrected me, but I said I thought at times he brings out the worst in you. When you're talking about certain things, I know you're not typically that kind of guy, but the rivalry is so intense that sometimes I feel like you bring out the worst in each other. Now to go through this again as you're trying to move on, can you even put into words how you feel about the man?
I think that's what's probably the worst part of it. Again, and that's the problem. Again, it's like we've gone in these nasty circles time and time again. And just when you think that it was kind of like we were going to head off in different directions for a while, because if I was to hope to get another fight against him, it was going to take some time and big win, so I kind of figured we were heading in a different direction. And, since the fight ended, it was every conversation I had with my management, with my coaches, was how do we find a way to do this again? And Bob Cook was like, I think the Jon Jones story is a bit over. He said, but we can be creative if that's what you really want. So I go, how do we get it done? And that's all we thought about in terms of the fight aspect of it. But to hear something like this, something, again, that's not really it has nothing to do with me, it's very frustrating. Again, my whole issue is just I don't understand how in these situations you could put yourself in he's in trouble, man. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I think he's in a ton of trouble now, based on this thing coming back positive at all. And again, I've been in this program for a long time, and a lot of times you take a piss in a cup and they split it between two cups. That's what your B sample is. Not like taking from two different samples.
Right.
It's one time you use the bathroom and they split it into two cups. So to think that half would be messed up and the other half isn't, is very, very rare. In the times of USADA, there has been some B samples that have come back different, but that's whenever they've been stored for a really long time. Sometimes with EPO in a hormone because we produce it naturally in our body. So sometimes that may happen, but for a steroid, especially a performance enhancer, especially if it is what they're saying that it was, it's going to be very difficult for this thing to be any different, I think. So I think he's in a lot of trouble. And that's sad, because the guy's very talented.
Right. Many consider him the greatest. Last week was a busy week for Dana White and company, but I'm wondering if you had...
Sad? You know what's sad? You know what's sad?
Please.
Is that I really don't believe he ever needed to do anything wrong. And you see a lot of people just flat out saying he cheated. I've seen Chael and I've seen a lot of guys, and obviously they're not in the position that I'm in regards to him in our fight, but he really didn't need to do any of that stuff. And I think if he was doing that, as long as I was saying he was doing it, I think it became just a comfort thing. And that's probably why he did it again. That sucks.
Well said, because early on he did seem to have, just an infinite amount of talent and was blowing through everyone. What has the UFC / Dana White told you about the state of the title, about what this could mean to you? What kind of conversations have you had with them?
First, he was just very... I think I heard the end of Chael's segment, and he said you could tell that Dana was a bit upset because, he looked like he was hurt for Conor. And I think in regards to me, I felt that same way. It was like, I cannot believe I'm having to make this call to this guy again. And I felt the sincerity, and I felt him a bit sad because he always says things to me like, man, you're a good guy. You know, he's like, you're in this sport. It's crazy. You know, you're a really good guy. But I have to tell you something. I'm like, what? And he's like, you know, Jones's sample was positive. I was like, wow. But he said to me exactly what he said in the media. You know, he goes, if he tested dirty, he goes, you know, you're the champion. He goes, if he tested dirty, you're the champion. The fight, the result can't be the same if you test positive for steroids before the fight. So I guess that's what may happen. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, honestly, because that opens up a whole nother can of worms, you know. So I haven't really thought about it.
Would you accept that belt? Like, would you be okay? Because the knock on you, which again I felt was unfair, was, oh, paper champion, this and that. You didn't do this stuff.
Yeah,
You're just the guy who's there and winning fights, and it's not your fault that he's DQing himself. How would you feel again if you're named champion and go on to defend and do your thing?
You know, what's the crazy thing was that the first time I got a lot of, you were given the belt, when in reality I won the belt by fighting Anthony.
Sure.
This time, I think I would be given the belt because of what happened. As a competitor, I know that we fought, you know, but if he was not fighting cleanly, then how is that fair to me, you know? So I would, regardless of the situation, I'd be fighting for the belt in my next fight either way, you know? So I probably would accept the belt. I mean, honestly, because I'm going to fight again and I'm going to beat whoever I fight and would still have the belt. So if you know, and I keep saying if because again, Jon's entitled to due process. If it is proven that he was dirty, then we would not have fought anyway, and I would still have my title regardless. So yeah, I will take the belt, and I will be a proud champion just as I was before, because I will show people what the belt means. Now, if it comes back that it's not dirty, then I go back to work to get a belt so that I can find a way to fight him again for a title.
Such a weird thing has happened since the end of your second fight against Jon. At times I get accused of being a DC sympathizer, but the truth is you've earned that respect from the community, and it seems like your popularity has gone through the roof with the way you handled the loss. And even now I see, so these pictures, these TMZ, you know that you have become a star when TMZ is taking pictures of you at the beach with your family on vacation. It's somewhat despicable, and I feel for you, and it's an invasion of privacy, but that proves that you have become a certain kind of elite superstar. And when I see the comments below those pictures, it's all like, true champion, clean champion, that's our guy DC. Now everyone's supporting you. Have you noticed this change? It's so weird coming off a loss and all this other nonsense, but this is what has happened. Now everyone loves you because you are handling these situations so well.
But I don't know how much I don't know if I changed. I've never changed. This has always been me. I think the issue is was the circumstances under which I won the championship, which again was not my fault. But also, when it's time to sell a fight, you got to sell a fight. And you know, some of these guys don't play the game, so I may come off as a bully, you know, because I'm talking about Alexander Gustafsson, and he doesn't really talk back. And then Rumble, another guy, you know, I make fun of those guys, just trying to really drag them into engaging with me, but they don't. So I may come off as a bully, but you know, it's my job. You know, at the end of the day, when there is no when people aren't interested in the fights and they don't buy them, then it directly affects me and my family and my bottom line. You know, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe me crying in the octagon was off-putting to some people. Maybe me crying when I lost the first fight was off-putting. You know, it's like, you're a big, tough guy. You're not supposed to be that emotional. I tend to wear my emotions on my sleeve, not only in terms of physically breaking down when I see myself getting beat, but also just if someone says something to me that offends me, I just kind of go crazy. And I don't want to. It's just who I am. It's been like that since I was a kid, you know. So, and when you lose track like that, sometimes you can say things that are a little bit out of line, I guess.
Is it fair, though, to say that you're done with Jon? Do you care to ever fight him ever again, considering all that's happened in the last couple of years?
Sad thing is, man, I would actually fight him again. I just don't know. I just don't know that there will be time, because at the end of this process, if there is another suspension, I will have run out of time, Ariel Helwani, because I've always said that I won't be fighting at 40, and I've done so much better than I ever could have envisioned when I started this career, that I think I may, if this is true, as it probably is, because USADA is a very upstanding organization, they would not have said anything if they just made a mistake, then I will probably run out of time. And the last time we fought will be the last time we fought. And it, that's the truth.
Do you have any idea what you want to do next? I know I asked you about fighting again this year. Have you thought about it more, or is it still kind of up in the air, especially after what happened last week?
I think if anything, this whole deal with Jon probably gives me more time.
That's
you
right.
know, because I'm going to have to wait to see what happens with him and the championship and everything. And then when that's all finalized, then I can start to plan going forward. I had the option to fight this year and turned it down. And imagine if I would have taken a fight and then been stuck in this thing in the middle of the fight camp. That's not the best situation to be training for something under. So I'm just going to wait. I've got a lot of color commentary duties coming up, and UFC tonight obviously is my main job. And so I've got some things coming up, and I'm going to enjoy my family, man. I mean, I fought twice this year, and had 3 training camps last year. I only fought once, but I had 3 training camps last year. And so I'm going to enjoy my family. I'm going to go to Pittsburgh. I'm going to go watch Luke beat David Branch. But earlier in the day, I'm going to be at the Oklahoma State versus Pittsburgh football game. How good does that work out?
Wow.
She was playing Pittsburgh on that day. So I get to take my son to watch the game and then go corner Luke at night. And then I'm just going to get back in the gym and start helping my teammates and see how this thing plays out. It's really all we can do is just wait and see.
Last thing before
I tell you, Ariel, I'm upset. I was upset. I'm very upset, but my coaches were upset. They were very, very upset because they saw the work that we put into this. And it's hard for me, I mean, if he did do something illegal, imagine if I did that at 38 to be able to wake up and not feel like I can't walk down the stairs every morning, So, that would really suck. And it's pissed off my coaches because those guys know the work that I put into that fight.
Last thing, DC, you were very adamant that Conor didn't stand a chance against Floyd in the build-up to the fight. Afterwards, you put out a nice tweet saying that he represented. How did you feel about the fight, and why do you feel like he represented MMA so well? What compelled you to put out that tweet?
Because when I was watching Conor fight, I felt this sense of pride. I was proud. I was actually proud of him. I mean, it doesn't matter, that I'm proud of him, or it just felt like because I think I didn't expect him to do as well as he did. And when I watched him out there and I watched him look good in there and watched him hold himself high and give a good account of himself, I was like, man, look at him. Look at how professional. He didn't just chase money. He went out there to try to win a fight against the greatest boxer, I think, of all time, maybe. So he went out there and he looked the part. He carried himself well in the promotion, the build-up after the fight. In the fight, he fought well. But, again, Floyd won. He won. And it was clear, he was what he was doing. He was trying to let Conor punch himself out and ended up getting the finish. But, yeah, man, I was very proud of him. He went out there and he represented himself and the UFC and every other guy with a great deal of class and dignity, and he did a fantastic job. So I felt like, as a guy that's been in the sport for a long time, a guy that every time I'm in contact with Conor, it's only respect, and he's such a respectful guy. I wanted him to, if he got it, or I know his coach pays quite a bit of attention, John Kavanaugh, to see that we are very proud of him as a mixed martial arts community, because he has nothing to hold his head down about. He fought the greatest boxer of all time and won rounds. I mean, when Brendan Schaub put that bet up against that he wouldn't win rounds, I was like, I'll take the bet. Man, I would have lost a lot of money to Brendan Schaub because Conor won some rounds. He won some rounds, and he did a fantastic job, man. We're all proud of him. We're all very proud of what he did out there on Saturday.
100% accurate. We could say the same about you, DC, the way you represent yourself in the sport. Second to none, all class. Really appreciate it and keep doing what you're doing. And I'm sorry that this has happened, but I'm happy we get to speak again because I thought you were going to go away for a while. So it was nice to catch up. And by the way, you looked phenomenal on the beach. I don't care what anyone said. You were all man on the beach. You were living life.
Hey, when you loco moco Kahlua pork in Hawaii, I was like, hey, listen, whoever was taking those pictures, do me like the Kardashians and at least let me pose, let me give you the good angle. You don't catch me from the bottom of my stomach. The guy's like under my belly. I'm like, what? You want my undercarriage?
Oh my, that is great. Thank you, DC. I really appreciate it. Enjoy some time off. See you in Edmonton.
Hey, Edmonton, Alberta. Yes. For the debut of the great Arjun Pullar.
Yes. Can't wait. Jinder Mahal.
Oh, man. With the Jinder Mahal in there. All right, buddy.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. There he is, Daniel Cormier. What a guy. Great insight. Interesting to hear that he said he was offered a fight before the end of the year. Good to hear that he's taking time off. We'll see what happens with the Jon Jones situation.